Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. I start out today with a quick, I guess you'd call it a technical alert. I found out last night when I was editing yesterday's video that there was some crackling on the soundtrack from probably the microphone. I don't know what caused it, where it came from. More important, I don't know if it was a one-time problem or if it's a recurring problem, in which case I guess I'm going to have to buy a new microphone. The reason I mention it now is, well, first of all, number one, sorry about the crackling. Hope it didn't hurt too many eardrums. Number two, if it is a recurring problem, I won't know about it till tonight when I edit today's video, the one you're watching now. So letting you know in advance if there's crackling, then sorry. I'll go out and buy a new microphone. You might have to endure one day more of bad sound because I'll be recording tomorrow, which will be a Friday, and then over the weekend I could buy a new microphone when I have more time. Okay, on to today's news stories. Several I want to mention, some of them related, some of them not, but so much has been happening, especially on the political front, since Biden surprised everybody by doing so well in the primaries, that, well, the first item, you know about it by now, no sense putting up a headline, you've seen it all over the place, but Elizabeth Warren dropped out. As of the time I'm recording this video, she dropped out, but she hasn't endorsed anybody, and that raises an interesting question. Obviously, whom will she endorse, if anybody? Because I mentioned yesterday that there is pressure being put on all of these candidates to get out and to endorse Biden. We already know Buttigieg and Klobuchar, they endorsed Biden, so did Mike Bloomberg, but Elizabeth Warren is a different case. She was being pressured to get out, but according to an article I read, she was being pressured from the left to get out, presumably because if she's out, that helps Bernie Sanders because she is more closely aligned ideologically with him than with Joe Biden. But the pressure could be coming from, I don't believe it's just a decision that she made herself. And I know that she has been speaking with both the Biden and the Sanders campaign. And we have to throw in the additional factor that in addition to Warren being more ideologically aligned with Biden, there is a problem of the way that Sanders treated her during the debates, especially you remember that hot mic after one of the debates where she accused him of calling her a liar. That could color her judgment. Also, she is a Democrat. She is not a democratic socialist like Bernie, so she may want to be a loyal Democrat and endorse Biden. There is also, as I mentioned in an earlier vlog, the potential for her to be on a Biden-Warren ticket as his vice presidential choice. That could be an incentive that was offered to her. Endorse Biden and you get the VP slot. Sanders could have made the same offer. I have to imagine that Sanders would have had to offer something to entice Warren. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because of the pressure from both sides and the enticements from both sides. The honest thing for her to do would be to endorse Sanders. So if she endorses Biden, that is another indication to me that the fix is in, that the Democratic establishment is pressuring candidates, working overtime to stop Sanders. That is what this whole campaign has boiled down to from the Democratic side. Defeat Trump, stop Sanders, which is a subset of defeat Trump. but they really don't have anything to offer. They have no real new ideas. The ones that Biden has been suggesting, I mean, stopping fracking, how's that going to go over in Pennsylvania? I think it's just a Stop Trump campaign. For example, if you are going to vote, if you're a Democrat and you vote for Biden in Pennsylvania, it's a threat to hundreds of thousands of jobs, or at least tens of thousands of jobs in Pennsylvania. So you must really hate Trump. That has to be your main goal. Now on to some items I want to talk about, and some of them will relate back to the campaign season, which is now getting really underway, because that's the other factor. I guess I have to digress. I don't think, I had been talking before about the chances of a brokered convention, but if it's a two-man race, if it boils down to Biden and Sanders, then it will not be a brokered convention, just for the simple mathematical reason that you need 1,991 delegates to get the nomination. 1,991 obviously is an odd number. So we know that there is no chance that there is going to be a 50-50 split. Somebody, even if it's only by a single vote, somebody is going to get the nomination. And there is some Sanders news. I'll get to that in a minute, but I want to start with this one. I'm just going to go through some quick stories here, but starting with this one, headline, Trump, government will start withholding funds from sanctuary cities after court ruling. Trump had been wanting to do this for a while. He had been stopped by injunctions from lower courts. It made it up to the Second Circuit, and the Second Circuit, a panel of 3 judges, ruled in his favor. The losers of the case are planning to appeal up to the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens, but as it is right now, Trump is acting on that court decision, and he is going to start withholding funds from sanctuary cities. We'll see what the sanctuary cities do. Do they want to lose all this federal funding? But there is also an important lesson here, which is the importance of getting conservative justices, or conservative judges, justices if we're talking about the Supreme Court, but on the lower courts, judges, because the Second Circuit is the circuit that, I don't know all the states that it covers, but one of them, I know because I lived there, is New York State. And the Second Circuit was a notoriously liberal court, especially on Second Amendment rights. The reason it's so hard to get a concealed carry license in New York City is because of the Second Circuit. People have brought suits. Second Circuit has always ruled against the Second Amendment. But Trump flipped the court. It is now a conservative majority. I don't know how wide the margin is, but it's a conservative majority court, depending on who the judges are on the panel. How many of them were appointed by Republican presidents? It could have made a difference. It could have been the difference in this ruling. So that is one very important reason to go out and vote for Trump. Do not make assumptions. Do not be overconfident. Get out there and vote, because the makeups of the court will last far beyond a presidential administration, because of the obvious reason that judges serve for life, and Trump is taking special care, from all I can see, to appoint young judges. So that's a reason, as I said, get out there and vote. Next story, I just thought I would mention this. It's not a major event, but scientists may have figured out why women live longer than men. In the search for the fountain of youth, quote, X, unquote, marks the spot. Scientists may have figured out why women live longer than men, linking it to having two X chromosomes which defend against aging, a new study says. Now, why do I bring this up amidst all these political stories? It's because it reminded me of a comedian with whom maybe all of you watching this are not familiar unless you're older. He was a popular comedian of my youth. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show a lot. If some of you remember the Ed Sullivan Show, since we're talking about old memories. But Alan King, a comedian named Alan King, and that was one of his jokes. Why do women live longer than men? And his answer was, women live longer than men because they're not married to women. So I just thought I would throw that out there. Maybe I'll get some comments on that one from the women, but maybe from everybody. But I just thought I would share that with everybody. Now we get back into politics. We get into the increasing likelihood of a Biden nomination. I just mentioned Warren dropping out. I mentioned all these dropouts turning right around and endorsing Biden. We'll see what Warren does. But here is a news item from Sanders, because I had mentioned this before, that Sanders himself had said that whoever has the most delegates, even if it's a brokered convention, which it may not be, it looks like now, unless Tulsi Gabbard stays in and gets her one delegate, maybe that will make it an even number. The odds are very, very small. But if we just assume for the sake of argument a brokered convention, Sanders had said that whoever gets the most delegates, even if it's not enough to win the nomination outright, should get the nomination. I was asking myself, what happens then if Biden gets more delegates? Because by Sanders' own definition, he should not challenge Biden, then he should accept the result. And now we have this news story, and I guess it's a credit to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, I'll drop out if Biden has most delegates at convention. He said this in an interview on television with Rachel Maddow. So he is keeping to his word. He is being consistent. He will drop out if Biden, as looks increasingly likely, has the most delegates. Then the question becomes, will he endorse Biden? It will be interesting to see what Sanders does. As I've said in past vlogs, stay tuned. But from the Democratic side, this gets more interesting day by day, their primary season. And then we also have the question, regardless of what Sanders does, what will his followers do? Are they going to vote for Biden if Sanders recommends that they vote for him? And then I also see I don't see it at all. It's just a pie in the sky. Let's be honest. I'll be frank with everybody. But it would surely be interesting if Sanders went third party. What if his supporters demand, or what if his supporters just inundate him with requests to form a third party? And now, last item for today. Has everybody forgotten about Ukraine and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Burisma? If you have, you can be forgiven for forgetting, because the news media have not been covering it for obvious reasons, because we have a biased media, most of the media biased, and they are not covering the story. But if Biden is the nominee, look at this headline. Nolte is John Nolte. He's the writer of this article. He's a columnist for Breitbart. Nolte, Trump promises Biden's Ukraine scandal will be, quote, major issue, unquote, in 2020. Darn right, that's what he should do. I would be surprised if he didn't. So Biden, if he's a nominee, he's going to be hammered on this throughout the entire campaign. And it's going to be interesting to see what the media do, how hard they work to bury the story. Because remember, Lindsey Graham is going to be holding hearings on this. There is another Senator, Burr. He heads the Intelligence Committee. They are expected to hold hearings on this. And finally, we have John Durham. Don't forget about him. John Durham is conducting an investigation. He has been convening grand juries. There is every possibility that there will be indictments coming down the pike. We'll see the timing of these indictments when they come, if they do. I would assume that they would come before November. And then, of course, whom he indicts. It's possible that none of these indictments will be of anyone involved in the Ukraine matter, but even if it's not, it's still another albatross around the neck of the Democratic Party, and then by extension around the nominee. If we have all these allegations of corruption, if they look credible, if we have hearings, if we have defendants walking into courtrooms, being photographed on the courtroom steps, and statements from lawyers, and then of course all the talk shows. As I said, it's going to be very interesting. I promise to do my best to keep everybody up to date, but the only way you can be up to date from my updates is if you watch my vlog. So thumbs up if you like this vlog. Share it with anybody you think would also like it. Got any comments? You can put them in the comments section below the video, as well as any questions you might have, suggestions for future topics. I would love to get more subscribers, so subscribe. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.